thousands of criminal cases filed in Montana each year, few ever go to trial. Most are settled with a plea agreement. Our own Joe Huizinga is on special assignment to explain how these deals work and why they're needed.
A plea agreement is a deal between a prosecutor and a person accused of a crime who agrees to plead guilty, usually in the hopes of getting a reduced sentence. Those involved in the criminal justice system say they're not always ideal, but without them, the system would be bogged down in endless gridlock.
To not have plea agreements be part of the judicial process would absolutely cripple the judicial system. It would bleed the taxpayers dry, and there would be absolutely nothing occurring in this courthouse other than criminal trials.
When a person is charged with a crime, the defendant is provided with all of the evidence both for and against his or her guilt. After a thorough review, defense attorneys can recommend their client make a deal or go to trial, but the defendant always has the final say.
The decision on whether or not to enter into plea negotiations, that is the client's decision. Almost universally, it's I would describe it as a risk versus reward analysis.
If a defendant decides to make a deal, the negotiations can begin. But whether they see any reduction in charges or sentence recommendations depends on the strength of the evidence.
Over a period of time, you finally settle on something that all the parties can agree in, and often you have to make sure that the court will agree as well.
And if the court does agree, many believe justice is served. Some argue that the punishment may not fit the crime, but others say the trade-off is that there's certainty in a conviction. Avoiding a trial can also spare the victims from the potentially traumatic experience of having to testify. However, if a defendant rejects the plea deal, the trial must move forward.
If that happens and the person is convicted, then the prosecution can make whatever sentencing recommendation that they feel is appropriate, and they are free to make a recommendation that is harsher than the recommendation that they offered to make during the plea negotiation.
But I don't think if you reject it and go to trial, that we say, okay, well, I'm going to nail you harder, I'm going to give you a harsher sentence. It's just that you don't get the benefit of the agreement.
Finally, the judge makes the ultimate decision to accept or reject a plea bargain. It can be a difficult process, but if done correctly, it can be a credible and efficient way to keep the justice system moving forward. On special assignment, Joe Huizinga, MTN News.